Aloha, and welcome to Career Connect, the podcast series created by Leeward Community College ASUH and Career Central, a guide to help you from campus to career. I'm AP, and I'll be your host for this podcast series. If you're new here, ASUH stands for the Associated Students of the University of Hawaii. We are a group of students who want to empower other students on their journey to success. Whether you're exploring your passions, preparing for internships, or taking that next step after graduation, this series is here to support you. We bring you real conversations with industry experts, alumni, faculty, and staff to help you navigate the world of work. From resume writing and interview prep to landing your dream job and thriving in the workplace, Career Connect is your go-to resource for career development. Today, we're talking with Alan Ito, who brings years of knowledge and leadership in the world of information technology. Join us as we dive in his journey and how he got started in IT, the skills that matter most, and how he stays motivated in such a fast-moving industry. Hi, Alan.
Hi, AP.
Let's start off by getting to know you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my position with the University of Hawaii is IT Workforce Development and Regulated Policy Lead. That's a mouthful. And I work out of our Chief Information Officer's office. So it's actually a system position. So I do work with all of our campuses across the UH system. Any programs that are related to tech, IT, I try to connect with.
And just to paint a fuller picture, what's your education and work history like? And where did you start your journey and how did it evolve?
Many, many years ago, I actually am a proud graduate of the University of Hawaii. I attended UH Manoa, and back then there was not a computer science degree. It was just starting as a certificate you could get. So I majored in mathematics. And then from there, I did some research at the university, and that's how I learned how to use computers. I wanted to get into business, so I moved over to Hawaiian Electric. I was there for a bit. And then what happened to me was I found an article that talked about management consulting, and it was an ad for Arthur Young, which was one of the big 8 firms back then. And I cut out that ad. I might actually have it at home somewhere yet. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So when I was at Hawaiian Electric, I was approached by a headhunter to join a firm called Pete Mowrick Mitchell, who is now KPMG. And they asked if I wanted to join as a consultant, and I jumped at the chance. So that actually really started my career in technology and what I ended up doing for most of the career. From being a consultant, I got involved. I became Chief Information Officer for the St. Francis Healthcare System, did that for a bit. And then I actually got involved with a startup in the early 2000s and helped start a company that worked with healthcare data. From there, I got involved with helping physicians automate their offices as the project director of the Regional Extension Center. From there, I became CIO of the Chief Information Officer for the state hospital system and for Team Praxis. And then I ended up as Information Security Officer for Hawaii Pacific Health. And from there, I joined the university.
Well, we're glad to have you at the university. That sounds really like an extensive work history that all just started with a newspaper ad. So it's very interesting to hear that. I know a lot of Gen Z, they don't know about no newspapers.
That's right. There's no want ads in the newspaper, very little now.
Yeah, it's hard to come by, especially something, that piques your interest. Now, for our students who are curious about IT, what skills would you say are a must-have in the industry today?
In the field of IT, it's so ubiquitous now. It's used everywhere, right? Technology. So my belief is you need to be strong in the basic fundamentals of technology. But beyond that, it's really important today that professionals in the field are good communicators. They're able to problem solve. In fact, when I talk to my colleagues in industry, the thing they bring up a lot is we'd like somebody who can hit the ground running, help us solve the problems we have, take initiative, can think through things on their own. So I think that's really important. Communications is really critical also. So networking, talking with other people, being able to talk with non-technical people. If you can be the smartest technical person, but if you can't communicate what you know and that knowledge with those who aren't as technical, but perhaps are the ones responsible for making decisions for the organization, that knowledge often, goes by the wayside.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to highlight is communication. I think people behind a computer, they think, well, I don't have to talk to anyone, I will excel in my job. But now you're underlining how important communication and I guess how a person should present themselves, even though that they are technical, that they should be able to speak efficiently to other people.
Yes, exactly.
So that's very interesting. How did you personally get your start in IT, and was there anything that kind of set things in motion?
Yeah, it was basically when I was at the university. Again, I was going for a math degree, but I was doing a lot of statistics, and you do statistics on the computer. And through a research project I was involved in, we started working with a lot of large data sets on the IBM 360, an old mainframe that was at the university back then. And that's how I got started.
Interesting, interesting. So looking ahead, what trends or new tech do you think are really going to shape the future of IT?
Well, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. I think that's going to have a huge impact. Again, it's a technology, but it's a technology that's going to be used throughout organizations. So it's not just in the technology area, right? It's going to be used in different areas of the organization. And that's what people need to understand, that technology, I always used to tell my staff, technology doesn't exist for technology's sake. Technology exists to help organizations achieve what their plans are, achieve their goals, and help them progress and be successful. And because AI is, a use of technology, I think it's going to be just prevalent throughout the organization, how it's used. So you'll have those who get involved in creating, the AI models, working with the data. But then you're also going to have those in areas that aren't related to technology who are going to use AI in their work. So people who enter the tech field can help translate, the technical side with how it's actually going to be used to help an organization.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing with this AI is kind of twofold. Yes, it's technical, but we also are going to need people to help us understand and implement this AI as well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So something that comes up a lot is how tech teams work with people who aren't super technical. How do you approach collaboration between IT and other departments?
Usually, when I was in the field, or I should say a practitioner, I would try to create teams that involved both technical people and non-technical people and have them work together. That way, you're helping to be sure that whatever the technology team is doing is going to work for the organization. It's helping meet the needs of the organization, and at the same time, help the communication between the technical people and the non-technical. I think teamwork is another really important skill that people in the field need to have, and you need to be able to work with non-technical people and to be able to convey your ideas in non-technical terms. I've often seen, not often, I've seen individuals who like to talk real technical and impress people by the technical knowledge, but what they're missing is that when you talk to non-technical people, that's going to go over their heads, and you're really not communicating or conveying anything to them. You're just, to them, you're talking kind of gibberish.
Right, right. I mean, some people still struggle with what is a mouse,
Yep.
they freak out.
Yep.
So keeping it simple and having that communication piece seems super important, especially when you understand your knowledge set and your knowledge base, but you're not able to communicate that to others. It seems like a very a fail point in no matter what situation or what team. So any tips for keeping communication smooth when people have totally different skill sets?
Again, just working collaboratively, I think is really important. The other thing is if you enter an industry as a technical person, you need to understand that industry. So in terms of learning, right, you need to learn that industry and understand the language, understand what their challenges are, how technology can help. And you need to be able to speak the language of that industry. I spent a lot of my career in healthcare. And, I work closely with doctors, nurses, other therapists, administration in healthcare organizations. So I needed to understand how healthcare works, how the insurance system works, what some of the therapies were, but you need to take the initiative and also learn some of that so you can communicate effectively with those that you're working with.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that although you may have these technical skills, you still need to be a subject matter expert in the field that you're going to apply those technical skills so that you don't have that miscommunication between, medical jargon and technical jargon. You can just have a smooth baseline.
Right. And that goes for any area. So if you're going to financial services, if you're going into government, if you're going into a nonprofit, you need to understand what that organization does and at least understand the jargon, if you will. Yeah.
I like that. So let's talk about leadership. How do you align your IT projects or ideas with the bigger goals of the company or organization?
So typically when I was in a CIO position, I would work closely with our CEOs and other C-suite executives to understand what the overall strategic objectives of the organization were. And then I tried to build off of that. Okay, what's the technology? So what is the technology strategic plan? An example is when I was with St. Francis. When I first joined St. Francis, I was, I think, the second employee of the St. Francis healthcare system. At that time, our CEO, Sister Beatrice Tom, had a vision of actually creating an operating system, not just two separate hospitals. So the technology plan included a lot of tools that would integrate multiple entities together. We looked for a system-wide electronic medical record system. We put in a system-wide communications. Instead of two separate PBXs, we did a system-wide PBX so we could communicate within the system wherever someone was. Email, we created a system-wide email system, not just for St. Francis Liriha or St. Francis West. So that, you try to see what are the goals and objectives overall of the organization, and now how can technology help support what the organization is trying to do.
I think it's important to talk to leadership, especially when you're making decisions about the changes that are happening within the company, especially when that involves, I would say, the physical level and the technical level, right? Because people are always involved in the technical process. So,
yeah, especially today, technology is in the news quite a bit, much more so when I started off in the field. When I started, technology was sort of a back office thing, but now it's right out there in the forefront. And executives and people in organizations are interested and want to understand the impact that technology can have on them and the organization. So as someone in the field, you need to be able to communicate, what that is and how it's going to influence impact.
to synopsis all of that, I think what you're trying to communicate or convey to our students is that who they need to be outside of the classroom is just as important as how they show up, I guess, in the classroom as well. Because marrying that to, I guess, of how you speak and collecting your knowledge and conveying that knowledge so that you can impact the change, especially when you're implementing change among, I guess, two systems, you could say, the old system and the new system, that you're trying to bring everyone into this new technological or AI era.
Right.
Students need to, I guess, keep their personal habits or keep their personal preference in mind as well when they're picking this type of career.
Exactly. So I know people who are interested in the medical field, but they want to do technology. So look at, healthcare technology. Look at, things you can do as a hospital system. One of the executives, one of the systems I worked at was actually a doctor, a practicing doctor. So he would have to take time to go and, provide care. But he was also an IT executive and actually helped a lot with the EMR system. So the other thing for students, I think it's, what all the technical things, you're learning a lot in school, right, as a student. So a lot of foundational things, which is really important. But to augment what you're learning in school, the book work that you're doing, I think it's really important for students to realize they need to get out and they need to, we say go beyond. Network with people in the field, in the industry that you're interested in, or doing what you're doing. Get together with them. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. Talk with them about what their challenges are, how they got to where they are, and really get out, join organizations that are relevant to what you're interested in. So, I think that's really important for students to really go beyond just being in the classroom and getting good grades.
Yes, I like that. Learning can be done anywhere, and outside the classroom, you can actually apply what you've learned. So that's great advice. But before we go, any last words or wisdom you want to leave with our students trying to find their way into tech or leadership?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things I always tell people is be a lifelong learner. Technology is changing so rapidly now, and this world is changing so rapidly. You need to constantly learn, and that's part of what keeps me going. That I like to learn new things, and you need to do that. Be passionate about learning, and learn the new technology. Get your skills going. The other thing I tell people is fail fast and fail forward. Meaning, don't be afraid to try something. Because by trying something and having it not go quite well, that's how you learn, how you tweak things, how you make adjustments, and then keep going forward. So especially when you're young, right? You have the opportunity to try things, and it doesn't work out. All right, let's make an adjustment, and let's see if that'll work. So fail fast and fail forward is another thing.
Yeah, I like that advice. I know here in Hawaii, we kind of have closed-minded people. Sometimes they don't like to fail, especially in front of their family. And failing faster and coming around that learning curve, I think people are afraid of, but they'll come out better for it, for sure. But Alan, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to speak and share your knowledge. This was powerful, and I know it's going to make a difference.
Thank you so much for having me, AP. One of my passions is helping our next generation of tech professionals. So giving me this opportunity, I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Career Connect. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and full of valuable insights for your own journey. Remember, whether you're just starting out or ready to take the next step, the path from campus to career is all about learning, growing, and staying curious. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, and stay connected with us for more conversations like this. From all of us at Leeward Community College, ASUH, and Career Central, keep pushing forward, keep dreaming big, and we'll see you next time on Career Connect. Mahalo.